After that, I shut down from my family, or at least from my dad and his side of the family, because I was just like, yo, This is the first time I'm obviously going left, but it's not too left. Like
We got drugs and alcohol.
Drugs and alcohol, man. So this is funny. So I remember the first time I started smoking weed. I was 17, and I never thought I would, because I was always an athlete playing hockey and shit. Never thought about it. You know, had cousins that do it, had friends that did it, but I never hung around people that did it, because everybody I hung out was on my team. So, and I remember I told my dad, I was like, yo, Dad, I went to him, ain't nobody had to go to him. I'm like, yo, I smoke weed, and he was just like, you're a fucking dickhead, and I was just like, that's not the response I was looking for. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to have a talk about this, and he just straight shut it down. And he told me to call my grandpa, because you know, all my grandparents were on drugs back in the 70s and stuff, in the 80s, even probably the 90s. I called my grandpa, who's a preacher now, and I was like, yo, my dad told me to call you because I smoke weed. Like, I don't know what I'm talking to you for. Like, I want to talk to him about it. And he was just like, my grandpa shut it down. He was just like, you're going to be on drugs. And I was like, what? Like, that's what your response is to me calling you about this? Like, you ain't got nothing else to say, but I'm just going to be on drugs. And after that, I shut down from my family, or at least from my dad and his side of the family, because I was just like, yo, this is the first time I'm obviously going left, but it's not too left. Like, I graduated with honors. I think I was like top 16, you know, in my graduating class. And I was just like, I was smoking weed, like, it doesn't affect me, in a bad way. So I think I had a talk with one of my coaches, and I was just letting him know how disturbed I was. And he was like, are you gonna stop smoking? I was like, nah. I mean, I like it. It's making me creative. You know, more creative than I've ever been. It's opening up new portals for me and shit. So he was just like, well, he was like, can't nobody stop you from doing what you're doing, no matter how, if it's your father or not. Like, no one's gonna actually stop you. No one has a gun to your head and say you're gonna, stop this. So I remember when he said that, that kind of made it put a whole nother. I went to a whole nother mind state, and I was just like, you know what? Fuck how everybody feel. I'm just gonna do what I feel like doing. And my whole mentality was, I don't care if I die tomorrow. I'm gonna do what I feel like doing. And it wasn't in a good light. It was just like a neglected light, like I felt neglected. And the two men in my life didn't want to talk about it. So thereafter, I remember I was telling my dad, I was like, yo, I would never drink. Like, I'd rather smoke than drink. And we was having a whole argument about that. He's like, you just being politically correct. I was like, oh, listen, dog, it's like very obvious that weed isn't harmful. And I was like, I never wanted to drink because I seen my mom drunk growing up. And, I was just like, who wants to be like that all the time? So my dad asked me, he was like, you gonna stop smoking? I was like, no. And that was the first time I stood up to my dad. Like, I was just like, nah, man, like, I'm doing me. Like, I'm 18 now. I don't mean to just put it like I'm 18, but I'm old enough now where I feel I can make my own decisions. Like, and even come here and talk to you about it was a lot for me to do. So the fact that you wanted to push that away, I'm gonna push away what you want from me. You feel me? So I want to say skip to like a year later. I moved with my mom after me and my dad was having problems, and I started drinking. Heavy because I found fun in it, I guess. You're a teenager, you stop playing hockey. Before I played hockey was nothing to do. Like, life was fucking boring as hell. So went back to that boring life, and weed, alcohol was it. And then when I got my first crib, at 20, one of my friends I play hockey with, I'm not gonna say, he introduced me to acid, LSD, and he was like, yo, he would tell me he did it, and I never. People tell me these stories, I don't judge them. I'm just like, oh, cool, it is what you do. I don't know what that is, so I'm not gonna mess with that. But he was like, yo, this remind me of your videos, like, it's real trippy, and like, he was like, bro, I think you would like it. Like, he was, I wouldn't tell you to do something if I thought it was harmful for you. And I was like, all right, cool. So I did it, and I remember being very thankful of him once the high started kicking in. And I guess that's what acid does. It starts to just bring out your emotions. So I was like, yo, bro, I appreciate you, because he was somebody I played with. He was like my partner on the ice, from the ice all the way until we got the crib. So he was like a very credible person. I can like put myself around and not really have to worry about him if he's a bad friend or a good friend to be around. He was all around a good friend. And when I told my mom, like, I mean, this is not nothing to really judge him off of, because at the end of the day, he's the reason why I got this crib. You know what I'm saying? He's a part of the reason why I got myself back on track as far as money and financially and stuff. So we did that. That was cool for me. I did acid a few more times after that. I remember that I took acid in that house, and then when I ended up moving out that house, I tripped on acid like right before I left the house. So I was just like having memories and shit. What else I did? What else we did? We did, smoke cigarettes. That was something I didn't want to do, but I did it. Did Molly. I remember the first time I did Molly. Like, I never wanted to do, after I did shrooms and acid, I didn't really care about nothing else, because I felt as though that was the highest I can get off of something and be comfortable with it. And I was like, I obviously would never do heroin. I wouldn't do no ecstasy. I remember reading about ecstasy in college, and I was like, oh, hell no, I would never do that. I would never do, and I thought I'd never do coke, but let me get back to the Molly. So Molly, did Molly for the first time, and I was like mad that my friends were trying to get me to do Molly. I was like, no, I'm not doing no fucking Molly, leave me alone. And everybody was like, peer pressuring me, like, come on, man, it's cool, I promise it's not da da da. And then I was doing it, and they was like, yeah, it's gonna kick in. And then nothing kicked in. I guess at the time it's like a mood changer. Like, they kept telling me that Molly will go off of how you already feel. So how I already was feeling was I didn't want to do it. So I felt like I didn't even get high off of it. And I remember this one night, the girl who was one of the girls that was with us, I guess she started getting a little high off it. She was like, yo, you're so cool. Like, you're like the coolest dude I ever met. And I was just like, she was pretty as hell. So I was just like, right. And then I did it, and I remember we smoked so many blunts that night, so many. I guess I did get high off of it because I wasn't getting high off the blunts. Like, we smoked so many blunts, and I was like, yo, this like the 10th blunt we smoked, and I don't feel shit. And I was like, cause y'all got me on this fucking Molly shit. I was like, if Molly is gonna interfere with my weed, I would never do this shit again. So I never did it again until I went to LA in 2016, and I did it. Yo, peer pressure, peer pressure. It was peer pressure. It wasn't at the same time, cause it's like, if I feel like it was like I got bored after a while. So I was with my old heads, and we was out there in LA, and my old head Kuda like, man, fucking do it, man. I'm like, Kuda, I will fucking fight you, dog. Why are you telling me to do this shit? Like, you're like my uncle. Why are you trying to peer pressure me into doing this shit? So I guess he was just trying to get me to loosen up, because we ended up going to Game's house, the rapper. I don't know if you know who Game is, but we ended up going to his crib, and they was like, yo, it's $100 to get in. I'm like, why would I fucking pay $100 to go party somewhere? Never. I don't give a fuck if I got $1 million. I'm not fucking paying $100 to party. So I played outside at the parking lot pimping. So we got in the car. All the homies left the car, right? So I hopped in the driver's seat, and I actually got the girls to come back to our crib. One of them was already digging my homie, so she got her friends, and I already delegated before they got there. I'm like, yeah, I make movies and this and that, just feeding them this fucking story out of LA, because I'm like, it's LA, you know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, I make movies, like, and they see me in the Mustang and shit. So we got the girls back, and the homie told him, he was like, yo, we got Coke and Molly, even though we didn't have no fucking Coke. He was like, we got Coke and Molly. So the girl got very excited, and I was just like, that was the first time I seen a girl get excited over drugs. And I was just like, wow, was this that easy? Like, not that I would use drugs to get a girl, because that's not my character, but I was just like, wow. So we get back to the house, and I was prepared to do more, because the girls were there. And it's kind of why I did the Molly. I was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to take this to get me in the mood. And the girl that the homie got to bring there, he thought she liked me, but I'm just a friendly ass dude, and people just like fucking talking to me. So she was talking to me while we were smoking cigarettes and shit, but nothing happened that night. I was high, and then I remember seeing the one Asian chick who's in the belly rub video. Actually, these girls are in the belly rub video, and oh man, if I showed you the footage of the girl when she got high off this Molly, it wasn't like wild. It's just that she just kept rolling her fucking eyes. And we were all looking like, what the fuck is wrong with you, yo? Like, she just kept rolling her eyes in a very disturbing way. She would go from being in front of the camera, being cool, and then switch just like that and be like, get that camera out my face. Like, she would wake up out of the high and be like, get that camera out my face. I'm like, this one gotta go, because she's giving me bad vibes and shit. But, and then, yeah, doing coke. I did coke like 4 times, and I remember I never wanted to fucking do coke. Like, it was just really, like, I was really pissed off. So somebody that grew up in my neighborhood, he was selling coke at the time, and we was at a place where people did coke, and this is the first time I seen people do coke, or it was the first time it registered in my head that they've been doing coke around me this whole time. He's like, yo, Sonny, you want to go? You want to do some coke? And I was like, what the fuck you just said to me, yo? Like, are you serious right now? Like, that's, first of all, that's not what we do where we come from, bro. That's, that's more of a white people thing, bro. What are you doing? So I'm like, nah, get out my face, bro. He's like, come on, man, it's not what you think and this and that. I was like, bro, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm not doing it. So, I ended up saying, I was like, I won't do it if Gabe do it, I'll do it. And he was like, Gabe did it already. And I was like, what? Like, this is my best friend. He never told me, but I'm like, he didn't tell me for a fucking reason. Like, he know I would have probably aired him the fuck out. So I called him like, yo, why you ain't never tell me you did coke, bro? He like, oh man, you know, man, I know how you feel about that shit. But he's like, look, it's really not what you think. You know what I'm saying? I stand the third. So I was like, all right, man, whatever, man. Like, I kind of was bored in the spot anyway. And I was just like, fuck it. Did a little bump. And then that was it. And then I remember hours later, we're like in a diner at like 4 in the morning. And I'm like, yo, bro, when I get home, I'm just gonna edit a bunch of videos. And then he just started cracking up. He's like, bro, you high. He's like, I know you ain't do that much, but you high. And I was like, well, I guess so. And I ain't gonna lie, at that point, I was like, okay. So then, I go to Atlanta, and the plug out there, somebody that like came up with like Lil Jon and them. I remember he offered me some coke, and I thought for some reason he was about to roll up some weed. And this is like 9 in the morning. It was like 9 in the fucking morning. I still got the footage. He's like, yo, Joan, you wanna hit this? And I'm looking, I'm like, what? Cause I'm like, you ain't roll it up yet? He's like, no, it's the coke. I was like, I'm good off of that, man. I'm good off of that. And then it started registering to me the whole night. I said, yo, I got in Atlanta at like 4 p.m. He been drinking since I seen him. I was like, that coke had him straightened out all fucking day. And I ain't gonna lie, like, I was just like, I'll do coke maybe next time if I get too drunk and you know what I mean? I don't want to be like out here not knowing where I'm at type shit. I would do sniff some coke to like clean me up a little bit. So I get back home, and there was this one girl. It's crazy, it's always the girls. This one girl who we was just friends, and her friend was like, he really fucked with me heavy. So they would call me sometimes to hang out because we lived around the corner from each other and we skated and shit. So one night they pick up the homies, and there's a bunch of white dudes, like older though. So I'm like, okay, and yo, they got mad fucking coke, and I'm like, like, yo, don't do no coke tonight. I'm telling myself all night, no, don't do no coke tonight. No, you know what I'm saying? So I'm chilling all night, and then in the back of my head, I'm like, I told myself, and this is where I fucked up. I said, only do it if they ask. So the whole time I'm with them, then they finally ask, yo, you want to hit this? I'm like, whatever, yo. Man, they had lines on the table, and I never did lines. I just always did bumps. So do the line, yo. They give me a tube, and I look down the tube, and I see a string of snot. Yo, and I don't know, the mindset, I could have just blew it, you know what I mean? Like, maybe turned it around or just maybe got it out the way. But I just went in the mind state of just how I did everything else. Just do it, you know what I mean? Like, if you hit the blunt, you don't fucking wipe the blunt off. You know what I'm saying? Before you hit the blunt, you don't wipe off the fucking 40 bottle after somebody pass it back to you. So I was just like, man, fuck it. Next thing you know, the next day I got sick. Strep throat, all types of shit, and that was the last time I did coke. But rewind back, cause I forgot the other time. The best time I guess on coke was I did everything all at once at night, and we went to a party. It was a lit party. First of all, the drug of choice that night was shrooms. Alright, we doing shrooms tonight. Everybody upstairs popping these shrooms, everybody getting wavy, drinking, smoking. And then, you know, homie like, yo, wanna do some coke? I'm like, yeah. Go do some coke. Feeling good. And we playing beer pong. And I remember talking about one of my homegirls thinking that I wasn't being heard. She heard me and shit. She told us after the fact, like, oh, you was talking all this shit about me that night. I was like, I wasn't talking shit. We just making fun of you, but it was just all funny games. I remember on my way home that night, it was cold as shit. It was brick cold. Like, it was probably like 20 degrees. And my homie had the moped, and I think I skated to the party. It was all South Philly shit, so I skated to the party, and he drove me back home on a moped, and it was cold as fuck. It was cold as shit. And I was so high. I was like, I'm not walking into the 7-Eleven, because he stopped at 7-Eleven to get some roll up, and I was like, I can't walk into the 7-Eleven like this, yo. I feel like I'm super awkward right now. Like, I ain't about to do all that. But that was one of the last times I did coke, and I never looked back. I was like, man, fuck that. I'm not fucking with that. I barely drink now, like barely ever. I don't even think about a drink unless I'm out and about socially. And now that I don't drink, it's easy for me to get drunk as hell. So I'll probably just be sipping on a couple beers or something. That drug thing is it came and went. You know, my grandpa, it was crazy. I was like, my grandpa said it. I did it. I guess it had to be done for me to learn a lesson. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because maybe my dad would see this, but I wanted to talk to my dad about this shit in person. But and my grandpa, he a little sensitive, so maybe he'll just have to see this and just deal with it. And just know that obviously that was a quick little phase in my life. Not even nothing I will even enjoy right now, but I'll definitely do some shrooms, you know, here and there. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And my weed. I'm never going to throw my weed away. Unless I just have a whole change of heart. But yeah, that's that.
Yeah. So, I think that's what's important about Lucid is to me, is that if you can figure it out and you listen, it'll teach you something by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And when I talk about the acid, I'm just like, yo, I tell people, even when I spoke with my mom, like my mom, she did not, on my 23rd birthday, she brought that shit up. She's like, you fucking do drugs. She started crying and shit, and I kind of just laughed at it because I was just like, I told her, I was like, baby, you should do it, because I was just like, yo, like you'll find yourself, you know what I'm saying, doing shit like this. And you, of course, no one wants their kids doing drugs, but you have to experience life. And I remember being high on acid and shrooms, always having the same trip. I will always be in a good space. I will always be appreciative of life. And it made me understand nature more. It made me understand everything else around me. I was just like, yo, nothing is a coincidence. Yo, nothing, everything is energy based. Like, obviously, you can manifest things from your mind and make it into a physical. I would tell people all the time, I was like, yo, You know, like the invisible shit that you don't see. I was like, the invisible comes to life when you fucking high on shrooms and acid. Like, I was like, these things are real. You know, I was like, you start to see the energy, you start to see things vibrate, patterns and stuff. The same patterns you see in your fruit. I was seeing those things being made in front of me, obviously in my head, but I remember I thought it was like an ant, right? I thought it was an ant. Then it went from 1 to 3 to whatever the actual pattern. I think it's 1, 3, 5, and then like I forgot what the geometry. I forgot what the terminology is.
Fibonacci.
Yeah, the Fibonacci shit.
1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55,
Yeah.
89, 134.
Yeah. That shit started manifesting in front of me through a pattern, and it was like a little speck, like it looked like a seed, and it was like green and yellow. It was green and pink specifically, and it looked like it was dancing. But like I said, I thought to me they looked like ants dancing, not physical ants, but I was just like, yo, that shit like some type of bug, and it went from 1 to 3 to more and more and more, and it was just all on the floor, and I was just like, can't tell nobody, yo, come see this shit, cause you the only one who sees it. But yeah, man, I try to tell people, like I said, every time I tripped, I was being very appreciative. I was learning new shit, and it changed it just changed the way I looked at everything. And then I would tell people, you don't trip on none of this shit if you going through a bad time in your life, because it will fuck your trip up. And I don't know what a fucked up trip is like, because I make sure I stay in the clear. You know, I deal with my problems head on. If you know, I'm not one of them people. I'm one of them people where somebody be like, yo, you said something about me? Yeah, I said that shit. Like you'll never, you know what I mean? It's like I'm guilt free. I'm guilt free, and I feel as though when you going through certain things, even if you're going through a relationship. I remember when I took acid on my way to Atlanta. I was going through it with a girl, and luckily I didn't. I was hesitant to actually do it. I was hesitant to do it, but I remember I took the same amount that I took before, because it ain't like I did it all the time. I did it like once every 4 or 5 months, maybe once a year, and this particular time I barely got high off of it, and I think maybe my emotions suppressed that and didn't even let the high get to a point where I can be like in a bad trip.